Our next speaker is going to help us look at CancerCon and think about ways that we can take CancerCon home with us. So, without further ado, please let me introduce you to Sage Bolte.
Those mountains, but I turned 40 this year and I got these guns. Thank you. Got this. So I don't think I'm going to climb a mountain, Sean, but I'm going to keep working on the arms to make people think I do. How has CancerCon been? Yeah. So for me, CancerCon is a place I get to connect back to the mission and drive that I have to do what I do every day as an oncology therapist. And it is always such a tremendous honor and privilege and really a sacred place for me to join you all every year. And I am truly grateful for letting me have a sneak peek into your world, for letting me be part of your journey. I can't thank you enough for your authenticity and your willingness to share. And there's been some hard shit shared here. And I want to honor that. I also want to talk a little bit about how do we wrestle with this, what some people might experience as camp high, right? You come together, you find people, you finally connect to some people who get it, and then you have to go home. How do we hold true to the feelings, the knowledge, the wisdom that we gained here? Or maybe we gained some things that we didn't like so much that we want to leave here. Let's talk about that. This, for me, has been an incredible journey with you all, and I know we have caregivers in the house, and we have healthcare professionals, and we have survivors and thrivers, and all of us probably at some point took a nugget. We find the power of connectivity here, the power of ourself, the power of healing. And again, when we connect with people who get us, it churns something in us. How many of you met someone new here that you think you're probably going to be lifelong friends with? Yeah. And I think that, for me at least, when I see or hear, you know, I just met her because she was talking and I thought it was interesting, so I started talking, and then we found out we had all these things in common, even though we live on completely separate continents or different parts of the States. Those connections, they matter, and they come back year after year. And so I want to walk through how we can hold on to the nuggets of hope that we find here. I also want to share some things that I learned and some words that maybe captured my attention this week. First, did you guys know that we had a meat suit? I mean, look at this meat suit, right? When I heard Melissa Etheridge say my body is not my meat suit, I giggled. But then it actually caused me to pause, because what she went on to say was, right, I am spirit. And what connects me is my spirit. And for her, that's hope, right? And for many of you, that might be hope as well. And I think it's important just to honor that we all have either connectivity with each other or with a higher power or spirit. Cancer doesn't define me. Cancer doesn't define you. And in fact, if you find yourself here year after year after year because this is what defines you, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to think about who you are beyond your cancer. Because cancer and that connectivity of getting that part of your story is really important, but it is not your only story. I won't regret the past or think about the future, and be still in this moment and connect with my spirit. I know we were talking at one of the groups that I was facilitating about that moment to pause. And I was joking that at 22, thank God there was not social media for me in the way that you all have it now. Because I did not always pause before doing things, and a lot of things I did could have been captured in ways forever shared across the universe. So thank God that I didn't have a Twitter account at 22. But I think for me, it's back to, I don't want to regret the past, right? I want to look forward. I want to think about how I connect, and Sean teed that up nicely around how do we stay in the present and be grateful for that now. Swivel. So there was a talk about cancer and careers where we were talking about disclosure, and Rebecca and Monica talk about the swivel technique. And all I could hear when they kept saying swivel technique was thinking of the movie American Pie. Now I'm aging myself by talking about this movie, but there is this scene where he pulls out a book that's like a sex guide, essentially, and I swear to God there's a technique in that book called the swivel. So every time they kept saying swivel, I just kept thinking like, swivel. And I would giggle every time, but one of the things I took away from that statement, swivel, is that we have power over how we control the conversation about our story. That somebody might approach me about something I don't want to talk about, and I can redirect the conversation through the swivel technique, and if you don't know what it is, find Monica and Rebecca, that you can change the conversation in a way that gives you power because you have power with your words. And you can change what conversation is happening now and in the future and how you want people to hear you or see you through this swivel technique. I loved this statement. Start speaking your reality into existence, right? So similarly, when we're hearing Sean talk about seeing Mount Everest, seeing that, see your end of treatment. Or see you feeling comfortable in your body. See you in a relationship. See you being able to disclose. See you being able to wake up smiling. See you being able to find someone who you can connect with that has close intimacy. See that into your existence instead of waiting for it to fall on your lap. You can't realize it until you visualize it. We heard that many a times. And we will cry and be proud of crying. How many of you remember when he said that? Yeah. For me, I heard that and I thought, thank God, somebody's finally saying cancer's shit too, and it's okay. You don't have to embrace this and be glad that it happened. You can also be sad and mad and angry. And we can also use that to propel ourselves to move forward. And then, of course, gynecological. How many of you remember Dan Shapiro saying that plus sperm? Dear past, thank you for the lessons. Dear future or present, I'm ready now. What have you learned at CancerCon? What have you learned about the power of connectivity or meeting people? Or maybe you've learned, I don't really like these people. I need to find a new group of people. That's okay too. Where do you find yourself stuck? Are you stuck in the shoulds? I should have, I should have, I should have, I should have. If you find yourself stuck in the shoulds, I would challenge you again to think about that. We're going to have an opportunity to write some things down in a few minutes. Because when we're stuck in the shoulds, all we're doing is shaming ourselves. We're not supporting or helping ourselves. Are you stuck in anger? And what do you need to do to let that go? Because one of the opportunities you have is to make a choice today to leave different, if you want to leave different. If you are happy and glad and live in life fully, then I want you to embrace that and find other things that you're going to continue to embrace. But we have opportunities. Many of the things that were brought up over this weekend were hard things that we dealt with. Post-traumatic growth, employment, the challenge of job searches, maybe feeling alienated and isolated from our peers or when we walk into a cancer center. When we live in the what-ifs, we talked about this in a couple of our groups, when we live in the what-ifs, what are we living in? That's not a rhetorical question. What are we living in? If we live in the what-ifs, are we living in the present? Are we living in the now? Right, and we're also living in fear. When we live in fear, are we living? Are we thriving? So thinking about, again, how do we live in the now? How do we live without the shoulds? The should-isms is what I call them, which are the shamings. And how do we get rid of the what-ifs and do the what-nows? You do not have to be grateful, as we heard from Dan Shapiro. He was very clear. He could have done just fine without his cancer. Thank you very much. But if you find that you're stuck in the anger or you're stuck in the pain, again, if you're stuck in the what-ifs or the shoulds, I would challenge you to take the opportunity to think about making a shift today. So I want you to think for a moment, and I'm going to give you a few moments to pause, about what it is, and it might be something that your head is making up. So we heard from Allie the voice in her head that said you can't. right? I know that voice. I struggle with that voice. I hear the voice sometimes of you don't know what you're talking about, they're all gonna think you're idiots, right? And you can all nod and agree with me, please don't. What is the voice in your head that you wanna choose to challenge and leave here in this room so it doesn't go home with you? I'm not saying there's a magic pill or a magic flip of a switch that's actually going to make that happen, but setting the intention forth that this is something I'm gonna leave here. I want you to take a piece of paper from the pad of paper that is on your table. And for a moment, and for some of you this may seem a little cheesy, but I'm gonna challenge you to do it anyways. I want you to think about, again, something that you wanna leave. Maybe it's something you're gonna let go of. Maybe you have had a toxic relationship that you're now realizing, holy shit, I do not wanna stay in that. Maybe you've been really critical of the weight gain that you had because of chemotherapy or the steroids, and you wanna shift that voice. Maybe you have the I can't in your head. Maybe you have an I shouldn't. If you find that your survivor identity or your caregiver identity is your only identity, maybe that's something you can think about changing. Now is the time to let that go. So I want you to take that moment, again, write down 1, 2, whatever comes to your mind. And then I want you to fold it once, twice. I know there are people not doing this, I'm seeing it, so don't think you're faking me out. We're doing this for a reason. As you fold it, I want you to intentionally right now, tear it and let it go. Rip it up. We have an opportunity to live fully into our lives. You are more than your cancer. You are more than those negative thoughts. You are more than the things that hold you back, and you are so much more. And what we can take from CancerCon is not only the connectivity, but the power of letting go and the power of setting intention for what we want when we leave. Now I want you to think of one thing you want to hold on to. And that holding on to may be like, wow, I learned that I have a strong advocate inside of me. I learned that this place is maybe not the space for me, that I need to connect with people in my backyard or online, or maybe I need to find opportunities to connect to other people in different ways. Maybe I learned that I can actually live into myself. What are the things you want to hold on to that you learned here? And you have postcards at your table. We did this last year, and we take these postcards and we mail them back to you in several months so that you have something to reflect on from yourself. Because what often happens is you get home and you stay for a couple of weeks on this kind of high or connectivity, and you're really excited and eager, and you're texting with your new friends, and you're talking on Facebook or social media, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, you're connecting, and then life starts to happen again. Or somebody that was here that you got close to gets sick, things start changing, other triggers come up. And when we have that moment where we can reflect back on the things that kept us grounded here, that we learned that were sacred, we can celebrate those. So take this postcard, make sure you leave the left, whatever side it is, totally blank so that you can write your address and don't write over it so we can put a stamp, etc. on it. Address that to yourself. Write a few things. If you want to write maybe, as a suggestion earlier, 5 things to be grateful for. If you want to write, you're a badass bitch, you can write that. As long as it won't offend whoever is opening your mail. Write something that is encouraging that you can hold on to. Think about what you might need to hear in 3 months from yourself, from the wise self. I know there are going to be some people still feverishly writing, and you'll have time to finish. I want you all to stand up, if you can. Physically stand up. If you can't, just get yourself a space. You can finish writing in a minute. So, first of all, thank you for who you are, for what you bring to us. You all were so open and challenging to me. We had an amazing discussion in one of our groups today that really opened my eyes to some things we've got to change. I also am forever inspired when I am in this room full of your energy. And I also grieve for the people that aren't here this year. And so I want to take one moment to think about those people in our own minds and just honor that. And now I want you to take your hands and put them on your hips. Put your chest out. Some of you have great chests, I've seen them. Put your chest out, and we're going to stand like this for a minute. And I want you to feel how much of a badass you are right now. Feel the power that you can get from this position. There's actually amazing science behind this, that if you stand in this posture for 2 minutes, it starts changing the way you feel. That actually changes your hormones, your cortisol level as well. That if you stand in this position, this power position, this Wonder Woman or Wonder Man position, Wonder Person, we claim the power. And in this position, you have the power to speak your future into existence. So what do you want that to be? I can't promise that your cancer is going to be cured or taken away. We have a lot of people living here with advanced chronic disease. But I know in those moments that you still can stand strong and choose what you're going to do right now. What you're going to do tomorrow morning, who you're going to talk to, who's going to encourage you. Evaluate the relationships that you're in that maybe are toxic, that are bringing you down, that you need to reconsider bringing other people in your life who are going to bring you up. And that's what we have here in this community, is people who you can look to bring you up. And so with our power stance and our chests out and our shoulders back, I want you to look over to the person next to you and say, you're a badass. And I want it in like the really cool, like, you're a badass. Yeah. So all you badasses, thank you for the opportunity to celebrate you. Thank you for the opportunity of coming to CancerCon. I really hope that when you take this position, and I would challenge you to take it every day, that you own that you own your power, that you own the connectivity that you've had here, that you own the power of yourself, and that you take that home with you, because other people are going to notice it. They're going to notice something's different. Hold that. I love you guys. You're amazing.